I'm Matt Margolis. I'm the head of community at Lawtrades. If you don't know Lawtrades, we're a flexible legal tech company where we provide busy GC offices as well as law firms functionally flexible. I can't even speak today. Flexible legal support, whether it's a lawyer, a paralegal, legal assistant, a legal ops professional, what have you. Today, I'm very excited because normally we do a lot of different events, webinars, how-tos, but we're starting a brand new series. It's called Legal Innovators. And I'm super pumped to have Drew here, who's our very first legal innovator. So Drew is a former associate at Wilson Sonsini, GC at WorkJam, and now he's current senior legal counsel at TRM Labs. Also, if you follow Drew on Twitter, I mean, there's no introduction there. It's honestly, it's please follow Drew on Twitter. So we're here today innovating and talking about crypto. Now, Drew, sorry for the ridiculous intro. How about you introduce yourself and maybe a little bit of your background?
Thank you. Yes, that intro was great and very, very generous. My background, yeah, like you mentioned, I'm a corporate lawyer by trade. Came up at Wilson Sonsini in Silicon Valley. I was there for about 5 years in the general corporate practice. So it was basically all tech and life sciences startups, all the way from incorporation to IPO. So did 5 years there, which is a good amount of time at a law firm. Great experience. Ultimately decided to go in-house. So in-house to another software company. Was always kind of interested in crypto and crypto space. There had not been traditionally a ton of opportunity for lawyers in the crypto space. I think the opportunity for lawyers in crypto, sort of in the past, I'd say, like if you rewind, like maybe like the past like 8 or 10 years, with the last like maybe 12 to 18 months being a different case, but has been primarily around sort of like the regulatory and like securities law stuff. Is this security? Is not a security? So as a corporate lawyer, I was always interested in getting into crypto, but there wasn't the industry and the companies in it hadn't matured to the level where there was a ton of need for corporate lawyers like myself. Ultimately, I was just keeping on the space and had, mutual contacts from Wilson Sonsini and was put in touch with the team at TRM. And ultimately it just seemed like a great opportunity. They were sort of in this hyper growth stage. And we were, getting ready to go through a financing and really growing the team. And so the sort of like pure play corporate generalist that could sort of step in and sort of fashion a legal department in the mold of how these sort of Silicon Valley tech, or Silicon Valley in a traditional sense, not necessarily in a geographic sense, those types of law departments would be constructed. So I stepped in and did that, and the team has continued to grow, both within TRM generally and within the team, the legal team itself. So it's been a fun ride.
I bet. I mean, I hear you guys in the news. I see a lot of like articles and thought leadership pieces, and I follow a lot of what you guys have been doing. I guess for anyone watching, do you mind explaining what TRM does?
Sure. TRM is a blockchain intelligence company. So we provide compliance and risk management solutions for companies who exist in the blockchain space, or companies, I guess, and public sector customers. So we basically make compliance tools. So think about the compliance and risk management tools that would be needed in the traditional financial ecosystem. All those same tools and those tool sets are going to be needed in the crypto ecosystem. So we sell crypto compliance software. We're a SaaS company, and we sell to customers across 3 verticals. So that would be crypto companies, think like the major exchanges where one would go on, buy, sell, and transact in crypto. The second would be financial institutions and sort of like what legacy tech companies do, like large tech companies, fintechs, if you will. So we're seeing a lot more in terms of banks and financial institutions that are interested in the space, that are looking to come online. And one of the first questions they ask themselves as they're thinking about doing so is how do we do so responsibly? How do we put in place the right tools to make sure that we, whatever sort of compliance and compliance and risk management tools and frameworks we apply in our traditional business, we can also apply to the crypto business. And then the third vertical is public sector customers. So we have a strong customer base amongst the public sector, being law enforcement agencies, regulators, both in the U.S. and around the world. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, kind of 3 different distinct customer bases, but it's at the end of the day, what we're doing and what the mission is to build a safer financial system for billions of people. So the idea is, crypto, if it's going to achieve its maximum potential, and what does that maximum potential look like? The maximum potential is wholly new financial system for billions of people. We're not talking about just a few people logging into their Coinbase or whatever account and trading Bitcoin and ETH and doing whatever. We envision a future where there truly is a wholly new financial system that exists, and that financial system is going to need trust, a trust layer and certain safeguards. And there's going to need to be an element of responsibility in there. It just can't be the Wild West forever. So that's what we're focused on doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think obviously in the news with what's been going on in certain spaces, trust is definitely a big component to really grow the Web3 space. Well, I'm going to back up a second. So what got you interested in crypto and Web3 generally?
Yeah, it was a combination of just sort of like hearing about it from friends who were into it very early. At a conceptual, at an intellectual level, it is very fun to sort of conceptualize about this sort of like decentralized, permissionless state, or not state, but decentralized, permissionless financial system where one could, transact in and store and transact in and transmit value, without intermediaries anywhere in the world. It's sort of a more democratic vision of financial services. Generally. So that all has some sort of like intellectual appeal. And so the question is then, what do you do about it? And so, the first like step that people do once they sort of get into crypto would be just like look at Bitcoin, buy some ETH, whatever. So I had been doing that a little bit and sort of like talking about it with friends for a long time, and staying up on it. And I also have brothers who are active in the space. So I've just sort of been into it. It was kind of a thing in, living in Palo Alto, living in Silicon Valley during that sort of like 2014 until I just moved out to Florida last year. But it's always been sort of around, and then seeing the space mature over the past few years, to the point where there were more and more companies innovating in the space, building in the space, and just sort of like the need for professional services growing in the space made me think that it was not just something interesting as sort of like an intellectual exercise and way to sort of invest in certain tokens, but I'd say that the switch was sort of flipped in the sense that you could actually make a career in the space. And I think we're at that point now. And I hope more people are looking to do that, because I think that the most pressing need really is for the professional services providers, the lawyers, the accountants, like the boring jobs, not the people who are the crypto anarchists. We need more boring people in crypto. Crypto has like the most
lawyers are boring. Come on, man.
Lawyers are not boring.
I've seen you on Twitter. Yeah. Get out of here.
Not all lawyers are boring. No, it's fun. It's a super fun space. There's just a lot of energy, a lot of people are constantly like questioning what's possible and looking to sort of like truly innovate, in the sense that like I know that SaaS insurance companies are innovative. I'm not like saying that Web2 and like other technology platforms aren't innovative. They certainly are in some ways, but this is really like sort of a ground up rebuild of a very fundamental component of how the world is organized. And so there's just so much room for innovation. So you see a lot of people sort of testing the boundaries. So we definitely have a ton of innovators, a ton of really bright people. I think we just need to play catch up here with the adults in the room.
Lawyers,
the lawyers and accountants and tax people.
I get it, man. Well, let me ask you about the lawyers. And again, kind of taking a step back. So you worked at Wilson Sonsini. Is it fair to say you were like a corporate generalist working with startups? Exactly. Okay.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that kind of work, right, isn't traditional, right? That's not technically Web3 work. You'd be working with a fintech company. You'd be working with an insurtech company. You'd be working with small and large. So the skills, I guess, is it fair to say that the skills you gained from that role assisted now? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's the skills that one acquires in being a corporate lawyer servicing high growth enterprises are transferable no matter what it is. It could be like a life sciences company, a tech company, a software company, or a crypto company. At the end of the day, what crypto is going to be is not just going to be these like tokens that are traded on Coinbase or FTX or whatever. I mean, there's going to be real companies here, and those real companies need corporate lawyers. They're going to need employment lawyers. They're going to need tax lawyers. All the things that exist. There's no reason why a company, just because it produces a crypto product or like a crypto, whatever the end result of that is, a DeFi protocol that it spits out or whatever, like the need for all the same types of professional services that exist in any other industry there's no reason why, just because we're doing something brand new and innovative in the crypto space, why that should be somehow exempted. If anything, we need it even more.
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to break for a quick question because I thought it was funny that someone asked this, and I just have to ask. So someone had asked, "What is in your crypto stack?"
Crypto stack. That's a.
You don't have to answer this. I figured
Are
I
you
just.
trying to just like elicit the most painful memories right now of what's been going on the past few weeks? No,
Yeah,
I like obviously Bitcoin and ETH. I like Solana a lot. It's a lot of fun.
sure.
I think it's like the space is growing a lot. I hope that it continues to grow and that more builders go there. Some of the NFTs, though, those are a little more speculative, obviously.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, I think it's up to everyone to sort of like do research into the projects that they think work and that they're interested in, and sort of like make bets on the future that they perceive. But I think like if people are considering what the most logical entry point is, I think my first crypto that I bought was Bitcoin, and I would bet if you polled most people who hold crypto assets or digital assets, that probably was the entry point for most people. Who knows, it varies, but yeah, I mean, I hate to give any financial advice.
No, you're good. I didn't even think you were going to
Particularly at
answer. I
this time.
appreciate that.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's good to be excited about the space. I think what you see, even as a lawyer in the space, if I were to sort of like, I know a lot of lawyers in the space, and you see it. People are just excited about what's happening in it, and I think that's a little bit distinct from other industries. So, I think it's actually a good question in the sense that like it's good to be passionate about and enthusiastic about the projects that are evolving within the space, because I just don't think you get that necessarily in like traditional software industry or in in other sorts of industries. I mean, if somebody was a lawyer for whatever Morton Salt Company or whatever, you're not finding them out there like trading salt futures or whatever, if that even is a thing. I'm just like, it's fun to be interested in what you're doing. Like you're going to be better at it if you're interested in it. So, and to also understand the technology, they're all different. I mean, like these aren't just like names that are traded on Coinbase. Like the technology and what you do with it is actually quite different. So like the use case for Solana is much different from the use case for Bitcoin. So if you understand what the technology is, you can kind of, I don't know, you can go down different rabbit holes and take twists and turns in your journey.
No, absolutely. Well, I appreciate answering that. I just had to. I had to ask it. It was like,
yeah,
it came up, and I'm like, I appreciate it answering. So to get back on, I guess back on track. So you worked at a firm, you gained these corporate skills, these general skills, you said, and it was very helpful to get into the crypto space. So, I mean, I guess I'll ask you this. The crypto space is so new. It's really unregulated. It's probably the best way to put it. Was it challenging to work in that unregulated space after working in, probably a much more regulated space?
So I think that question is probably, I would think that my answer to that question is probably a little bit different from what some of my colleagues in the space, how they would answer, because what I do ultimately, I mean, TRM is a SaaS company, and we provide tools that allow our customers, who are like other industry participants, to basically meet their compliance and regulatory obligations, whatever those might be. And so the regulatory environment actually doesn't like press much on my daily work. It is something that you have to stay aware of, just so you can be aware of the landscape and also be aware of what the customer need is. But I think like at the end of the day, what my company does is make SaaS tools within the crypto space, and I think the regulatory framework that's going to be applied to crypto is very much still evolving, and there will probably be a significant push here in the next 6, 9, 12 months, or who knows. I mean, I would think that's not too off base of a guess given what's been happening in the markets, but we'll see. But at the end of the day, the regulation probably will come, and industry participants will have to meet that one way or another.
I think it's fair. And it kind of leads to another question that I personally had. So you're seeing Terra, you're seeing Celsius having its own issues. You're seeing certain companies kind of, I guess, run into a bit of concern, right, in that space, in the crypto space or the Web3 space. So I'm thinking, so it's your thought, right? You're going to see more regulation, and in turn, you're probably going to need more securities attorneys, more maybe white collar attorneys, more attorneys that traditionally weren't in Web3, that were really just corporate attorneys that are going to kind of come in.
Yep, exactly. I think exactly that. I think you're going to need to see a whole bunch of things. It's not just the the regulatory energy or the regulatory thought has largely been around, is this a security, is it not a security, applying the Howey test, and thinking through those issues. That'll still be there, but you're also going to see in, other things. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, the first insider trading case in crypto was brought, with the OpenSea case. And so I think you're going to see, a lot more attention paid to the space from in all directions. And so basically, if you think about what a large company, a large technology company, or a large financial services company that exists in the traditional financial system, all the needs that they have in their internal legal or compliance programs, I've yet to come up with a reason why those same needs don't apply in crypto. I think the only thing that's different is the companies that have evolved over the past few years are still just a little earlier on in their life cycle, to the point where they haven't hired up as many attorneys as they might like. And there also has been, I think, a bit of hesitation on the part of most attorneys, certainly from more traditional industries, to get into the space. I think part of it is a lot of attorneys particularly at law firms, are just so consumed with and so busy with their workload that they almost don't have the luxury of time to fully explore all the exciting things that are happening. So it sort of feels like it's happening sort of like in another world, separate and apart from their work, unless they're doing the day-to-day crypto work, which is there aren't that many that are doing that. And then also just the hiring. I mean, we've seen a commitment to hiring more attorneys and more compliance professionals, tax professionals across the board at a lot of crypto companies, and I think you'll see that increase. So it's just about getting people comfortable, sort of taking the leap, and particularly getting people. When I say people, I mean lawyers, particularly, making them comfortable taking the leap to get into the space, even when they might not understand or feel like they have a complete understanding of the space and all the players within it. You got to learn some way, and it's just the companies. Like if you're a lawyer at a large law firm and you're looking at a job at Google or at Apple or whatever, I mean, you can easily kind of quantify what that means and what that might look like. So if you're like sitting and thinking, I'm a lawyer at a law firm, I'm looking at going in-house, what should I do? Should I go work at a SaaS company? Should I go work in crypto? Should I go work at a food delivery startup or whatever? I think there's a little bit of it just seems opaque what these opportunities are, and so I think to the extent you can sort of like call on any friends or contacts within the industry to help you sort of screen different opportunities or make sense of sort of like the menu of options that's out there. I think that's probably a reasonable approach to take if you're trying to look at what's out there.
Well, yeah. So I'm a recent foray into Twitter. I think Twitter's absolutely frightening to me, actually. But I've noticed that it is a huge. I mean, you're pretty. I mean, I would like to say you're a pretty big deal on Twitter. I don't know if you agree with me, but I think so.
I don't know about that.
But so I'll ask you that, if you're let's say you're an attorney, you're working in a corporate space, would you say getting on social media, specifically like Twitter, would that help you trying to, one, kind of learn crypto, learn the space, learn the players, and two, try to get in the space? Do you think that would be helpful?
Listen, I think there's a number of social platforms out there that people speak to their audience to, and in traditional industries and in traditional jobs, if you will, law firms and all that stuff, most people will post on LinkedIn, and it'll be somewhat benign posts like, congrats to company XYZ who just closed their Series B financing, so honored to be a part of it, which is nice. Those are very nice posts. I really like those. But I would say that there's a lot of crypto moves incredibly fast, and a lot of the discussion, a lot of the zeitgeist is captured on Twitter. There's it's called crypto Twitter, or even within shorthand like CT. You'll hear people that's how used it is. People can't even write crypto Twitter because everyone's on there and the discussion is there. So if you want to connect with peers, that's just where you're going to find them within this space. So it's unique in that sense. Traditionally, lawyers, I think, are pretty hesitant to become active on social media, whether they think that their firm is looking over their shoulder and going to disapprove of some comment that they're making on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, or they feel like they're not quite ready to to put their views out into the world because they feel like they're waiting to become partner or feel like they've reached some like vintage of their career where their views are validated in some way. But certainly within the crypto space, I think there's like an expectation that, not an expectation, because you certainly can work within the space and not be active on social, but you'd find a lot of interesting discussion and a lot of interesting opportunity if you did, put your thoughts out there. And it's a good way to meet and connect with other folks in the space. I've certainly, been able to form a lot of, quality friendships that have transitioned to, not just like Twitter friendships, but we all hang out, and when there's crypto industry events or different things. So to the extent that you have something to share or some perspective on it could be anything. I mean, it could be crypto stuff or it could be lawyering or, I mean, really, to the extent that you have a perspective to share, I think you would find that there is a receptive audience out there if you just want to engage in the discussion.
Absolutely. I had personally no knowledge of anything crypto. I came on Twitter, and I don't want to say I'm an expert, but I definitely think I'm probably more than dangerous at this point. Dangerous in the sense of like my wallet, I have no money left. So, I'll break. I'll pause for that joke, and I will ask a question from the audience, and I'd like to know as well. So does TRM handle compliance or have compliance solutions for crypto payment processors? This is actually very specific.
Yeah, this is quite specific. So TRM, so we provide solutions across the entire crypto stack. So I mean, I don't want to like get in front of the BD folks or the sales folks, but yeah, I would say if you're a company that's in the crypto space that is fits within those three verticals, which would be the crypto platforms, and so including like the DeFi platforms and also the financial services companies that I mentioned, and then also sort of like there are fintech companies that TRM does service. So those would be like without giving it, just large payment processors that sort of exist online. TRM works with companies across the entire universe.
Perfect. That's it. No more sales pitch. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that.
No, all good.
Listen, I can send over some business. I'm trying to.
Let's do it.
All right. So
commission, but...
I love this. So this is a lot of fun conversation. And I really appreciate your time here, Drew. So I'll backtrack a second. So I'm an attorney. I worked at a law firm just like you. I finally put my head up to breathe. I've hit my billable hour requirement, and my partner hasn't asked for more work to be done, right? So I'm starting to look at the crypto space. I went on Twitter. I'm starting to understand what's going on. So I guess what would be the next step? Would it be scouting out companies that just raised a round, like you said? Would it be speaking with other folks in the industry? What would be the next move?
I think all of those things. So I think that there's a ton of content. I think part of the challenge within crypto is there's also a lot of noise. So you got to kind of filter the noise and try and turn the volume down on the noise while turning up like the quality level of the information that you're feeding yourself on your information diet. So it's about finding the right people and the right voices, and most of those are probably on Twitter. And then also there's like the podcasts that are heavily listened to in the industry. There's like a handful of them that a lot of people go to that tune in sort of regularly, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly. I certainly listen to those when I'm dropping kids off at school or whatever. My 5-year-old probably has like an insane amount of weird crypto knowledge because of that. Yeah. So there's that. And then I would also say, like, if we're trying to narrow that question down to specifically about, it sounded like it was just lawyer specific, but if you are talking about a lawyer, are the lawyers on, the most are willing to talk. When I wanted to get into the space, I had one or two friends who worked in the space who I was able to talk with. But if you reach out to other thoughtful lawyers in the space, if you're able to sort of find them, and which is not that hard if you like are on Twitter or any other sort of like, that's probably where you're going to find them the easiest.
Sure.
I typically will make time to people who reach out and express like a sincere interest. I mean, some people reach out and are just like, hey, I'm like, want to do this and that NFT project. Like, what should I do? And like, I can't engage with that. But if there's like law students or people looking from firms who are like, have specific questions about how they can make a change in their career to like, achieve the outcome of being, meaningfully involved in the industry, I think you'd find that most lawyers in the space would welcome that with open arms. Despite how busy everyone is, we want more people. Like we want to grow the tent. Like we want everybody to, not everybody, I mean, but we want a lot of people to want to come work here and come be part of this. It's fun. I mean, I listen, being a lawyer, especially being a law firm lawyer, I mean, it's fine. It's fun. I'm not saying it's not a bad existence, but if you're looking for like a super fun, like exciting way to be a lawyer, I would think this would be like probably either the first or second or third industry. It should be near the top of your list. There certainly is the need there, and the opportunity there if you can kind of make sense of it. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's the top of my list. I mean, listen, I'm a former private practice attorney too, and needless to say, practicing in private practice was not on the top of my list. Probably working in crypto in Miami, that's probably like top one.
It's fun. It's fun. It is very fun. The private practice people in crypto have fun too, though. Those people are sort of part of the ecosystem as well, and there's a need for that also because you can't just handle everything in house. So there's and even within a firm, if you're in a firm and saying to yourself, I want to get more experience and continue doing this thing in the firm, or you like the pay or you like the whatever safety or job security. I mean, a lot of these firms are trying to establish themselves as being sort of like crypto or Web3 type of shops. And I would say that like it's very much up for grabs. I mean, the entire industry in all regards, in a lot of ways, much of it is up for grabs. Within like who is the best like big law firm for crypto, I mean, there's a handful of firms who do it and participate, but it's still so small, so small in terms of the number of lawyers that are actually doing this day to day and who understand the legal issues and understand the technology or understand crypto, like even just the cultural idiosyncrasies of working crypto.
Sure.
So, so even if you want to stay in the law firm and become the crypto, part of the crypto group, I mean, I think that like you probably won't find as many like of the seasoned sort of like, gray-haired partner types who are looking to make a huge shift in their career at this point. So it's really going to be up to sort of like the younger or the like more junior people to sort of like drive the opportunities that then land on their desk.
It reminds me a little bit of like you remember when just like the start the big push on cannabis, and all of a sudden shops just like had cannabis practices and appeared.
Yeah.
But there were folks, right, that there was at least one or two attorneys that were so interested in the space that did become practice experts, and they started those firms, and they go to those firms, they end up being GCs or owners of other cannabis companies. It feels very similar in that regard, where it's this new frontier. And you're right, maybe many of them start in private practice.
I think it's similar. I just think that the potential for it to become much more like broadly entrenched is higher in crypto than in cannabis. I think it has the same sort of like, it feels a little bit rebellious, I think, at least within the context of like very traditional organizations. But, and I think there are more companies. I think what you have in crypto is this talent funnel that comes from traditional finance into crypto. And so like, and that just doesn't, I mean, I don't know what the talent funnel into the cannabis industry is. I imagine it's people have been involved in cannabis maybe since high school or whatever. I don't know. So I just think that like you would find that I think crypto probably it's similar in the sense that like, yes, it feels like a little bit riskier or sort of like non-traditional.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that it. I think it actually presents fewer issues, at least in terms of like if you're looking at. I know many law firms won't even take cannabis work. A lot of banks can't even deal with these companies, and so I think you'd find less friction in crypto than you would in cannabis.
I think it's fair to say.
And I think less professional risk. I think, but I could be biased. I've never worked like squarely in cannabis.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say, especially because you're right. There are certain industries that literally will not touch. I mean, granted, it's changing. It's definitely changed tremendously, but I do think that's a very fair point. Well, I'm sure you knew this question was coming. What are your thoughts on the future of Web3, the future of crypto, future of everything, especially in light of some of the stuff we've seen recently in the news? So I'd love to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts.
I mean, I am very optimistic about the future of it. I think at least from TRM's vantage point, we see the types of companies and the types of industry participants that are either in the space now or looking to get into the space or looking to expand their presence in the space. And all signs, I have no reason to believe that it won't materialize into what we all sort of like have in our idealistic scenario, like the outcome of it being this wholly new financial system. I remain very confident that it will become that. Token prices will go crazy in all directions at different times. I would say that if you look around the world right now at other industries, if you look at tech companies, if you look at I don't track like every tech company, but just by sort of like reading the headlines, I know that a lot of the tech companies are seeing a lot of the same price action in their stock prices. So, I mean, is everything going to work? No. Is there going to be some like major growing pains along the way? Absolutely. But I see enough talent moving into it. I see enough legitimate, and sort of energy and effort and really smart people getting into it. And then also, I mean, like the sort of thing that ultimately like provides at least like me a degree of like sanity and safety is the sense that, I mean, if you look around at all the venture funds that have recently raised these blockbuster funds and have all this capital that they're going to be allocating into the crypto or Web3 ecosystem in the coming years. I mean, those projects will take a few years probably to sort of grow and materialize and mature into providing real sort of like value or use cases. But ultimately, those will come and those will sort of evolve. And I have very, very high degree of confidence. I have no idea what will happen with any token price, but I do in the next few months or whatever it is. But I think that there's just enough activity in the space and enough like legitimate people building real things. That's what I think has not yet been there to the extent that some had hoped, which is this sort of like real world use case. Like, what does one do with their crypto besides hold it or sell it or trade it or whatever? And so, I think probably that'll be what drives the next. Who knows? There could be a lot of catalysts that would drive the next sort of like bull run, if you will, if you think about it in that sense. But if you think about in terms of like, what does the ecosystem look like? Or will it just like, will the energy or will the air sort of like come out of the balloon? Like, I just don't see how that's. So anything's possible. Doesn't seem likely to me. And I just know, just based on the quality of people that I've gotten to know during my time working in the space, that these are some of the brightest people the sharpest people I've ever worked with. That includes, I've worked with a lot of startups in all different industries, but I'd say on balance, if you were to sort of average out the different categories of startups or of different types of companies, then I'm just always amazed by how smart the people are in this space.
Agreed.
And yes, there are people who are scammers and drifters or whatever, but that is the same in every industry. I mean, you find doctors who are writing phony prescriptions. You can find this if you want to look for it. You can find it. It's just crypto. The thing about crypto, which I've come to sort of, I think has framed some of my thinking, definitely the past like couple months, is that I think it's just the topic itself is very clickbait. It's clickbait. It gets clicks. It's like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard of the financial system, if you will. It drives traffic, and so it's good to write a story that's written about the decline of crypto token X or the blow up of some crypto startup or whatever. Just will get more clicks than if you were to do that about a company in the whatever, like electric panel company or whatever. You wouldn't drive the interest, and so people are interested in it. And it can capture people's attention and imagination in that sense. So it's really good to write about, and it's really good to have an opinion about, or to sort of like engage in this sort of like, or to sort of like dance on the grave when the token price goes down. But if you sort of tune that out, and just look at what people are actually doing in the space, like what people are actually, what's actually happening, like the companies that are getting built, the companies that are getting funded, the like world-class venture capitalists who have just raised billions and billions of dollars, who are now looking to allocate that, who will then invest that capital and nurture those companies and foster the growth of those companies from, inception all the way through to whatever the ultimate sort of like manifestation of the company's reality is going to be. That's going to happen. I would be like, it would defy everything I know about how the startup ecosystem works if that didn't happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but if you take a longer term view.
Sure. I tend to think it's just going to be 100% to your point. It is very clickbaitable. I mean, how many memes candidly have I made about the crypto space?
Yeah,
Probably too many
fun
to
topic.
admit. It is. It's a really
the
fun
crypto
topic.
people make their own memes. I mean, like, in like people. Yeah, so it's fun. I mean, it's just like a fun thing to be informed on, and just like there's a lot of drama. There's fun personalities. People are sort of like, uncouth, if you will. Like there's no rules in the sense that like, if you hear some sort of like, investment banking analyst from, some traditional bank talk about, some traditional company, some, Alcoa Steel or something, they put out some research report. They talk about like, it would be some very formal document that's gone through many layers of review, but crypto people just sort of like give it to you fast and straight. Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be informative. It would be highly informative within 10 tweets. And it would be interesting. Listen, I couldn't agree with you more. I tend to think the future is probably going to be, you're right, everyone's going to be there. There's so much money flowing. There's a lot of very cool ideas, incredibly smart people. I'm thinking regulation is probably the biggest thing we're going to see, which is probably going to mean more lawyers. Everyone is dreading that thought. I love it because of the industry I'm in, and I'm a lawyer. I think you probably are good with it.
Yeah, I actually don't think all crypto industry participants are dreading it. I think like, so there's like, it cuts both ways, right? I mean, like you don't want regulation because you don't want to stifle what you're trying to do, but you also like regulatory clarity does provide some sense of, it just provides this sense of like a shared understanding of the rules that everyone should be playing by. And that isn't always bad. So I think the general sense is that harmful regulation is just that, it's harmful, but thoughtful regulation, and that doesn't mean like regulation that is just like go do whatever you want, like a free pass to go do whatever. I don't think that's the view that most people hold. But I sense that there is an appetite for some degree of regulatory clarity.
Sure. And with that, you'll probably see a host, I think, of really cool product counsel roles. I don't know if anyone knows. I mean, let me backtrack a second. If you're listening, product counsel is kind of a new kind of role within companies. I would call it maybe a micro general counsel of a particular product or feature. Drew, tell me if I'm being crazy.
No, I think that makes sense. It's the role. When I think of product counsel, I think of the people who work with the folks who are actually developing the tech to make sure that the tech is not going to get the company in trouble. That's like the simplest sort of like how I could distill it. And yes, absolutely. I mean, when you think about, I think that role exists certainly with some of the larger companies. We have recently expanded our team and have some new team members who are just like really sunk in on some of the product law issues. And it's been, you can just see that there certainly is a lot of work that all companies can be doing as they build products and as you start building more products. So yeah, that's absolutely one area of opportunity in addition to all the others. The key thing is there needs to be products, right? So it can't just be crypto hedge funds trading tokens around. It's got to be people building products that people use. So for sure, you think about some of the companies that exist in the space that make products that are used by people, the Coinbases and Robinhoods of the world. They for sure have multiple product lawyers involved in doing that, and others. Others I think are certainly staffing up on legal. Legal's not always the first. When you're building something and you're trying to just like grow, it's later on that you think to bring in the lawyers. I mean, you want to bring them in, but it's not always the first. And then it's like, okay, what type of lawyer do I bring in as the first hire? And so like I'm seeing more people move into the space. But in terms of like focusing on like specialists, if you will, not quite there. Definitely not there. But there's certainly many careers that I think are going to be made over the next, 10, 15, 20 years. Certainly, like when you and I are in the golden age of our careers, if you will, to the extent that we have those.
No, we were already in
it. Am I in the golden age? I don't know.
It gets better.
Yeah, we'll see. If like a super sharp product lawyer from a traditional technology company or from a law firm, if they committed to saying, I want to apply everything I know about product and product law to the crypto space, there are dozens of companies who would love to chat, I'm sure, because people are starting to really build things.
Yeah.
And in 2 or 3 years, there'll be more because all those companies or all the money that we just talked about is going to get allocated and people are going to be building more products. So absolutely.
So I couldn't, I mean, like, again, I keep agreeing with you because I have nothing to add because you're right. It's early. It's very early. I've got 2 last questions for you. I appreciate all the time. I appreciate all the insight, everything. So these are the questions from a law student. They want to make a career in crypto in the Web3 space. Do you have any advice for a law student? Like how to get there from just starting in schooling?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like there's a couple things to think about when you're a law student looking at how you're going to shape a legal career as just like base layer. How am I going to transition from being a law student to being a lawyer and have a successful, prosperous career or whatever? And then it's like, okay, so then you layer on top, how do I get into crypto? So the first thing is like all the same rules that apply to traditional careers within law, I think apply within crypto. I mean, get good grades in law school, get internships, go work at a good firm, like find the right mentors, all those things. Like it's not like a total rewriting of how to become a lawyer in the space. I think within crypto, the way to sort of like set yourself apart is to deeply understand not the tech. You don't need to deeply understand the technology. You don't need to be able to like code and like understand all the complexities of certain DeFi protocols and all that stuff, but generally understand what the crypto, like what the technology is, what the different projects are, who's involved in the space. And if you start like engaging with those folks and if you have thoughtful things to add, there are certainly ways that you could distinguish yourself. I mean, I've seen law students do this. And the traditional gatekeepers that exist in the legal industry or gating functions, which are basically like, do you get good grades? Do you have the right internship? Do you like get staffed in the right deals? Like those things like still apply in the sense that like you still need to be a good lawyer and you still need to be like a high functioning, sort of high performing professional. But in terms of like the crypto piece, it's like no one's going to serve that to you in the sense that like if you go work at a big law firm, you might have opportunity to work with large companies in the oil and gas space, whatever, like you'll get opportunities. But if you want to get into crypto, I would say that like it's incumbent on you as somebody getting into the space to shape your own career to achieve that, because it's like the on-ramps are not going to be there. They're not just like, oh, default into doing this. It's, do you have an interest in this? Like, are you going to drive it? Are you going to like provide thoughtful, value add or just thoughtful perspective on what's happening in the space or what's happening with your clients, and kind of creating your own opportunities in that sense. There's been great examples. One name who comes to mind of a law student who did this is his name is Jacob Robinson, and he's out in Canada. And law student, well, he was like a articling student, which I don't know what that means, something in Canada, how Canadians become lawyers.
I don't either.
They do something. I don't know, in Canada, that's how they do it. And he's had his podcast going and just sort of like provided thoughts in the space and just gets like some of the most, thoughtful minds in the space on to have discussions with him. And like nobody made that happen. And I think like, I would just love to see more law students engage with crypto, engage with the community, like put themselves out there, and sort of like don't be like timid to express your thoughts or your perspectives about it because you think that there's going to be some professional cost to you down the line that some law firm partner is going to read your tweets and go, oh, I don't want to hire this person. I think that sort of ethos doesn't really square with what's happening in crypto in large part. And so, so to the extent that you are interested in it and have something to say, just say it and like start putting yourself out there and getting active in the community. And that is like one way in. And then the other way in is just, getting, the more traditional path of getting good grades, going to the right firm and being deliberate. On that point about like firms, like when you're looking at opportunities, I would say if you really want to do crypto, think deeply about like, does this firm or does this place actually provide me the opportunities that I want in that sense? Because not all firms who do tech work or who specialize in tech work are going to be the firms that will provide the richest experience when it comes to getting crypto or sort of like Web3 work, whatever that means.
That's another.
Yeah,
I love this conversation.
And then ultimately, like at the end of the day, this applies for lawyers, accountants, everyone, even like engineers, everybody. Like you just need to be good at. You need to do something. You need to be good at it. You can't just be like somebody who's interested in crypto. Like generally, you need to like what is your skill that you bring, especially with startups, especially in this environment where like there's going to be a little bit more. The hiring can be a little more selective. There's going to be more people in the job market as like this economic cycle plays out. And so like, what is your skill that you're going to bring to these companies, and to be able to like basically position that skill set along with, to basically package that along with, whatever your interest is and your ability to like work effectively in this space, in this ecosystem. I think that's sort of like how I would think about it.
Well, these are the last two questions, I swear. So in that same vein, law firms, are there any law firms that come to mind in terms that have like pretty robust crypto practices?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a number of them. Some are large, some are small. It kind of depends on what you're looking for, I guess. But certainly, like, so, I think a lot of the law firms generally, this is not picking on one, are playing catch up. All traditional institutions are playing catch up when it comes to crypto. I think a lot are looking to expand significantly in there. We work with a number of law firms. Our company's a little different because we're at the end of the day a SaaS business. We work with a great group at Freshfields in Silicon Valley. There's great lawyers there, and then there's a lot of firms. The Silicon Valley firms are definitely making an effort to do it. Cooley and Fenwick and Gunderson and all the sort of like traditional Silicon Valley types are definitely making a push. There's also some really great firms if you're looking for like specific crypto, crypto native types. I mean, like small. There's a firm called DLX. It's a group of folks in DC who are like pure play crypto. Anderson Kill. There's some great folks at Davis Wright, Tremaine. So I mean. There are, I would say a lot of firms are doing it. I say this for every person who's trying to assess firm A versus firm B. It's less about the name on the door. And because once you're in the door, it's actually who you're working with, because you'll find that when you're in a firm, you work with 2 or 3 people. So it's about who you're working with, not necessarily the name on the front door.
It's always I preach. It's always the person. It's always the person. I can't hype that enough. Drew, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the discussion. We're just out of time. I have a lot of things I have to Google after this. I thought I was good in crypto. I'm wrong, clearly. Well, so everyone watching, thank you so much for coming. We have another event coming up on July 7th. It's how legal can prepare for an economic downturn. It's going to be with the speakers from GoPuff and Zynga. And then our next Innovator series is going to be on July 14th. And that's going to be with the CLO of FaZe Clan, Tammy Brand. Everyone, thank you so much for your time. Thank you again, Drew, and have a great day.